Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Israel Connection. I'm Esti Zenati, and my guest today is Dan Rozett. Dan is the Director of Community Relations and Israel Engagement at the Jewish Federation in the heart of New Jersey. Hi, Dan. Thank you for joining me.
Hi, Esti. Good to
Hi.
see you after so many years.
Yes, good to see you. Dan and I used to work together in Israel 100 years ago at a pet and law firm. So it's nice connecting with you again after all those years.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. So our main subject in this podcast is Israel. And with everything that's going on right now, I'm sure working at the Jewish Federation and, within the Jewish community, there's a lot going on your side as well.
Absolutely. So our Jewish Federation is located in Middlesex and Monmouth County in central New Jersey, and Rutgers University is in our backyard. And it's one of the main hotbeds of anti-Israel activity and anti-Semitism that has really exploded since October 7th. I think the Anti-Defamation League, the ADL, has said that it has gone up 400 since October 7th. They did a survey. I believe that they recorded over 3,200 incidents of anti-Semitism between October and January. So October 23 until January 24, which almost reached the total number of anti-Semitic incidents for 2022. So within a span of 4 months, we almost surpassed an entire year's worth of anti-Semitic incidents in the country. So we're dealing with it. We're dealing with it here on a state level and even on a local level, where a lot of these anti-Israel and pro-Palestinian groups are trying to pass, they call them ceasefire resolutions in local town councils, but honestly, they're just Israel bashing resolutions filled with lies and propaganda. And obviously, passing it in a local town council has absolutely no effect on, Israel's foreign policy or how they're managing the war. But it is a statement if it does pass. And so far, we've been able to attend and push back on 3 or 4 of these attempts, and they have not succeeded. And that's due to a lot of advocacy work behind the scenes, talking to city council members and mayors and such. So, it's a lot of discussions, whether it's Rutgers University administration or local, municipal leadership, state leadership. It's a lot of hard work.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
we're doing it.
a lot that's going on right now everywhere. And it seems like in the US, it's anti-Semitism and anti-Israel bias has been getting much, much worse.
Absolutely. And it's based off of so many lies and misinformation and old anti-Semitic tropes, like, things like Jews or Zionists control the world. The Israeli government did this on purpose to benefit from so many, like from the United States. I mean, I can stand here and we can talk about that for hours. It's all coming, resurfacing. And what's troubling is it's coming a lot of pro-Palestinian groups full of young students, kind of like the next generation, which is very concerning, at least for me, because these groups are not just, Muslim students or Palestinian or students who have roots, back in the Palestinian territories. I'm just going to say it, they are white, they are, extreme liberals who have latched onto this, ideology, this anti-ideology everywhere, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you lived in Israel for 20 years, right? Over 20 years, and you
Yes.
served in the IDF as a combat and as a reservist as well.
Yes.
So especially in the beginning of the war, did you ever have any desire to go back and help with your knowledge, or do you have any friends that are currently serving?
So yes to all. So the morning of the attack, my wife woke me up. It was Shabbat morning here. It was, I don't know, I was still sleeping, and she woke me up at like 7:30, 8 o'clock. When she woke up and turned on, started scrolling through Facebook, my immediate thought was, all right, I'm going to pack my bags and I'm going to rejoin my old reserve unit. And I say rejoin because I'm already discharged. I'm 48. I was discharged about 8 years ago when I turned 40, but I was ready to go. And then I kind of took a step back and understood that, okay, that might not be as easy and that might be more of a burden to my old unit to redraft me. And then I took into consideration my role here in New Jersey, working at the Federation, and realized that I could do better for Israel here than just packing my bags and going. And what I mean is, we immediately, like the entire Jewish community all over the world, we immediately went into emergency mode. We understood that although it's Shabbat, this is, pikuach nefesh, it's saving a life. So we mobilized our entire staff and our board and began raising money even during Shabbat, which we never, ever, ever do. And as far as, friends, yeah, I still have friends who are crazy enough that they're still volunteering. I mean, they're my age and they still volunteer. I'm happy to say that everybody's fine. They were actually deployed to the north and dealing with the threat from Hezbollah. But it's hard, Esti. Like,
Yeah.
it's really hard. I know it is for you too. It's hard to be here as an Israeli and not be there. And as a combat soldier, I know that I can contribute. It's been a while, but it's like riding a bike. You don't forget these things.
Right.
I have the skill set, and that's affected me very, personally, as I'm sure you as well. And experiencing the threats here, I think I'm experiencing it differently than others because of my combat experience. Like, it's kind of like a trigger
Yeah.
in a sense. Like, I'm in defense mode. They call it hyper arousal. Like, I'm in defense mode. Like, I'm always looking for the threat, which is, and it's an unfortunate side effect from serving in
Yeah.
a combat zone. But
I think in general, living in Israel, especially like
yeah,
growing up as kids and stuff, because I grew up, I was born in Israel and raised there and grew up there until I was almost 28. But I think the whole experience, I mean, we're all in PTSD, like we're all
yeah,
traumatized from something, and we have triggers, and especially serving as a combat in the IDF, you have all these triggers that no matter how much therapy you go to or how well you take care of yourself, something was going to pop out at some point, and especially
yeah.
during times like these.
I'm going to be very honest with you and personal. I have started therapy because of what's happening. I mean, for me, it's probably long overdue with my experience but this was really, I guess, the moment where I, said, okay, I need somebody to talk to, because, it's a lot of weight, and I know you feel it too. It's
Yeah,
just,
I mean, personally, I've had nightmares about being kidnapped and murdered, and I've seen like, I have nightmares about specific hostages also that I see, and it's a lot. It's a lot that we're
yeah.
all like affected by it. Every single Israeli is affected by this in a way.
And I'll tell you, when I go to these town council meetings to speak up on behalf of Israel, and I see these pro-Palestinian groups, I can really feel the hate coming from them.
Mm.
And it's a genuine threat in my mind. So,
Yeah, it is.
I go home and I immediately think about protecting my family, myself, because, my name is out there when I speak on
Right.
public engagement. I'm on camera, they film me. Like, there's a lot. There's a lot to handle here.
Yeah. That's what some people don't understand. They think we're exaggerating. Oh, it's a minority. That it's not a minority. I mean, we can see, I mean, social media is not an indicator of everything, but we can see it outside as well. When people speak, and we see it in public, what the reaction from others. And there might be not as many people against us as we think, but they're very strong, very powerful, and very loud.
You bring up a very good point. I actually do think they are greater in numbers, but they are very well organized.
Yeah.
We are not as organized as a Jewish community. We have many Jewish organizations that are doing great work, but not always in sync with one another. They are 100% organized with WhatsApp groups where they will send out a message and say, be at this city council meeting at this time on that day, and that'll go out to hundreds of people,
Right.
and they will be there. And they are loud, and I'm going to say it, they have very little regard for law and order.
Hmm.
Um,
Yet
we
there are
we
no
have
consequences.
correct. There's no consequences. I've had many discussions with officials no names, but officials on local and state levels, even law enforcement. And, there's only so much they want to do. They can do more, in my opinion.
Mhm.
But there is the issue of optics, and I'm not criticizing law enforcement. They are amazing, and they protect us really very well. But, they have to make decisions. Will it look good on TV if they start, arresting, people who are coming to protest because they're a little bit loud, rowdy, so
Yeah,
they choose not to. We choose to act in accordance with law and order, and that in turn makes us a bit quieter than the quote unquote the other side.
right.
So you're right, you said it. They make a lot of noise, and they get a lot of supporters because of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it looks like those in power don't say much because of I don't know if they're afraid of backlash or if they just don't want to deal with it because it's so violent and so like they have no regards to anybody or anything. So it's always in your face and
Yeah, and don't
yeah, I
forget,
mean,
it's an election year. It's an
yeah,
election year.
that adds a
Now
layer to the whole
I'm
thing.
jumping now to the federal level, but it's an election year, and this is
Yeah.
why we're seeing a different kind of tone now coming from the White House, because they're afraid of losing votes, which they are from the progressive side.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a problem, and it's not only in the U.S., it's everywhere.
yeah,
And you see even in the UK, you see the police arresting those who are pro-Israel. They arrested this Iranian guy who had walked around with
hmm
a sign that says Hamas are terrorists,
yeah,
and he was arrested. But the others, calling for the genocide of Jews are fine. They
right.
can continue as they are. It's sad. It's like living in a twilight zone, like I told you earlier. It's
And
weird. It's like 1939 Germany and even beyond that.
so I I want to be a little cautious. I'm trying not to be an alarmist, right? So when
Yeah.
people ask me, is it like 1933 or 4 or whatever, Germany, my answer to them before October 7th was no, it's not, even though anti-Semitism was very high even before October. Now, my answer is I don't think we're there, but I can see like the kindling of a fire. Like I can see it starting. We're
I think what
seeing it
makes
in,
it feel like really bad right now is the fact that nowadays we have social media. Everything is out there. Everything, nothing is hidden. Everything is out in
right.
the open. Also, they allow themselves to chant all these things against us out in the open because nobody does anything.
And
Back,
also that people don't understand it,
yeah,
which is what I'm experiencing a lot. I didn't mean to cut you off, but
no,
um, we're seeing this so much in the schools here, in the high
mm,
schools, that Jewish kids and Israeli kids are subject to nasty and racist comments every single day, but the administration doesn't necessarily understand why calling somebody, a Zionist pig is anything more than just, an insult. They don't understand what that means. And it's our job, my job, at least in my community, to educate school administrators, which is also on the list of the things that, so it's a lot of education actually,
it
we didn't
is.
really talk about that yet, but there's a lot of work educating the community and Jews
Yes.
too. Esti, you'd be surprised. Tonight I have a program where I'm doing an anti-Semitism briefing. You'd be surprised how many people, and it's for a Jewish group, it's for a
Mm.
Jewish audience, how many people will say, "Really? Is it that bad?" They don't, even our own,
Yeah,
don't.
people live in their bubble. They don't, I mean, especially people who don't have, like the older generation, they don't have social
Yep,
media. They don't have all
right,
these things that, they don't watch the news that, I mean, they watch the local news maybe on TV, but
right.
they don't go beyond that. I guess to them, it would be a little surprising
That's
maybe.
actually the kind of group that I'm talking to
Yeah, I'm
tonight.
sure.
It's an adult retirement community.
Yeah.
So
See,
yeah,
I know
yeah,
my audience.
you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very true.
So in your role, like, have you gotten a chance to talk to specific people about their experiences? Have you heard of like really crazy experiences with anti-Semitism
Um,
in Israel?
so yeah, so I call my daughter, she's a spy for me. She's a freshman at Rutgers,
Mhm.
and she reports back to me a lot. Um, and right now it's all about Students for Justice in Palestine. This is a pro-Palestinian group on campuses throughout the country and Canada as well, and they are vile anti-Semites. They spread propaganda all the time, like things like October 7th was fake, or Israeli women were not raped, there was no beheadings, all of those things. So my daughter tells me that this is what they see all the time on campus, signs that say these things, or signs that say Israel is committing genocide, or they walk down College Avenue, which is one of the main streets on campus, and they see signs that say Intifada, revolution, or resistance by any means necessary. These are the things that the Jewish students are seeing, and it's affecting them. And of course, online, we see it all the time. We see that as well. And we see Jewish community members reporting to me that they're in Costco, and because they have a Jewish star, Magen David necklace,
Mhm.
somebody will throw out, an insult. You Jewish
Yeah.
this or you Jewish that. That's what we're seeing. I'm not going to say a lot, not here. But close to where we are, northern part of New Jersey, it's worse, and also, and of course, New York City, which is not that far from
Yeah.
where I am. Um, but honestly, all of these insults towards Jews, it's a lot in the schools, high schools and middle schools. And I'm finding that out recently that it's a much bigger problem than I thought.
Even in middle schools?
Yes,
Wow.
you would be surprised. Seventh, eighth grade, sixth, seventh, and eighth. um, we're seeing this, and you know where it comes from, Esti. It comes from the home,
Yeah, of
you know.
course. I know.
And again, the administrators and the teachers either don't want to deal with it, like you said, because it's too quote unquote complicated, or they just don't understand it.
Yeah.
They
Or
don't understand it.
they do the opposite and they teach the kids propaganda and all this, lies and
Yes. So we
yeah.
haven't had that here in my community, but in Brooklyn, which is, I don't know, 40 minutes from here, there have been cases like that in New York City public schools, where teachers of like second grade classes are spreading these ridiculous lies about Israel. I mean, they shouldn't even be talking about this at all at that level, you know.
I mean, honestly, I've seen that happening even in kindergarten and preschool in some areas,
Yep.
which is scary, but it comes from the
What we're saying,
teachers.
there was a story, I can't remember where it was, that I think it was second grade or first grade teacher had asked her students to put sticky notes on the door
Yeah, I heard
of
about
a
that.
Jewish
The
teacher's
Jewish
classroom,
teacher. Hmm.
saying things like, Israel's committing genocide or something like that. I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah, she told them to put something that says you're killing babies or
Yes,
yeah,
right. I mean, crazy stuff.
it's insane. It's scary. Have you gone to Israel since October?
I have not, and it's killing me. I have been for several reasons, but I have not made it there. And I told, on a personal note, I told my wife in the summer, I'm going. I don't care, come with me or not. I love you, dear, but I'm going. Like, I have to be there. I can't.
Yeah, that's
I
my
don't know if
plan as well.
have you been since or
No,
not yet?
I couldn't because my daughter, she has school.
Yeah,
But, I want to go in June. My family is trying to convince me not to go because of the whole thing from the north, starting now with Hezbollah.
yeah.
So I
But
still
I've
want,
talked
I feel like
to
I have to. I have to
I,
go.
I'm with you 100%.
Yeah.
And I've spoken to so many people that have come back there from there, and they're telling me that it's just a different country than it was before. You feel it obviously everywhere.
Yeah.
Um, but they also tell me Israelis are resilient, that they're living life,
Yeah,
which
that's the thing I keep hearing from everybody that comes back. They say they feel the sadness and the anger, I guess, in some to some extent. But they also see that Israelis are very resilient and everyone is trying to move on and live, a normal life,
Yeah. I think
in a
Israel
way.
was rated the fifth happiest place on the planet
Yeah.
last week,
I know,
despite
it's
it all.
crazy. Yeah. But that just shows you how resilient we are. And we've been through so much, so many different attacks and wars and
Yeah.
hate since the beginning of time. And we're still here and we're going to continue to be here.
Absolutely. And this is, I say this a lot to our adversaries, you're wasting your time. Like, you want to stand here and say all these things about Israel and about Jews, but good luck, because we're not going anywhere. And,
Yeah,
we're strong. United States has a very strong Jewish community, financially and politically connected, and we're not going anywhere unless it's our own choice.
exactly. And like we say, Am Yisrael Chai.
Yeah.
Yeah. For the first time in my life, I'm wearing a chai necklace. Like, it's really tiny, but I'm wearing a chai necklace. I never in my life imagined that I would be wearing a chai necklace.
Yeah, a lot of
But
people,
yeah.
students especially. My daughter walks around with 3, on her neck.
How does she feel
Um,
about this? Like, her and her peers from school.
so I prepared my daughter well. She's not a great test case because she lives and breathes this together with me, so she is very well prepared.
Hmm.
Her friends, however, were not so much, and they are scared. They are scared on campus. Many of them do hide their Jewish identity. So if they were wearing, necklaces with chai or a Jewish star, they are not now. But not all. Some the opposite. Some have, what's the word, dafka? Like, they've
Yeah.
especially
Yeah. Right. In spite
are
of this,
aware.
they're gonna, yeah,
In
despite
spite
that.
of it,
Right.
yeah. But they're scared and worried. No
Yeah.
matter what, whether they're identifying or not identifying themselves as Jews, they are very worried. And I can see, by the way, online, like, I belong to a Facebook group of, I forget what the full name is, but it's Mothers Against Anti-Semitism on Campus, I believe.
Hmm.
And you don't have to be a mother to join this group. And one of the first questions now that every single parent is asking on this group is, what is anti-Semitism like in this school or that school? Because my child is thinking of applying to here or there. And that's become a major factor in
Yeah.
the decision-making process.
I'm sure
Uh,
someone will work out a way to like prepare a list of colleges and universities that,
yeah.
from the highest anti-Semitism issues to the lowest. Like, where
So
is the safest?
the
Yeah.
ADL is a good place
Yeah.
to check, and I think they are preparing a report like that.
Yeah, that would
Yeah.
be a good report. And I mean, unfortunately, it's a report that we need to have just to make sure
Yeah.
that the kids are safe. Because I mean, my daughter is 9, but I don't know what it's going to look like when she turns 18 and decides to go to college. I don't know. I mean, hopefully by then everything will be okay and we'll feel safe again somehow. But I don't know. The world, it seems like it's getting crazier by the minute.
So
So.
I'm a pessimist, Esti. I don't know if you remember that
Yeah.
well about me, but if if the younger generation that I see protesting out there are the ones that are going to lead this country, then I'm not sure we're going to be okay by the time your daughter gets to college.
Yeah, that's what I'm scared of, these people.
And high school too. You've got to get through middle school and high school also. That's not going to be easy.
Yeah. I mean, I hope that by then something will shift in a way. Someone will wake up and be like, "Oh my God, we've been wrong all along." And then, but
I
I,
hope so. It's kind of our job as Jewish,
yes,
community professionals, to educate.
yeah,
But there's only so much we can do. People,
right. And we're also outnumbered.
we are outnumbered.
Yes.
And I'll tell you this: we didn't really talk about how our allies, or I'm going to say so-called allies,
Yeah.
how they reacted to October 7th. Part of my job is to develop interfaith relationships, to create alliances with other faith leaders, and I have been doing that over the last couple of years, with the hope that when a crisis happens, they will stand beside me. That did not happen.
Right.
And it's not just me. My colleagues across the country have reported back the same thing. We have been disappointed, and I'm even going to say abandoned, backstabbed. I don't know.
Yeah.
We have realized that in most cases, we are alone in this fight.
Yeah, I mean, we
And
can see it nowadays, like this past week on government level.
yep.
We can see that people like kind of backtrack what they said before and change their minds, and all of a sudden it's, oh, we're going to limit you and we're going to do this,
Right.
when before they were very supportive. It's yeah, it's a feeling of betrayal.
That's the word I was looking
Yeah.
for. There's a different set of rules when it comes to Israel and the Jewish people.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah,
I mean we've seen it throughout the years, and I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. I think that's always the bias with people. Like
yeah,
they can be and not everybody. I mean, obviously there are some people who will
correct.
still back us up and, support us no matter what. But there are people that they say one thing and then say another, and then it's like we're not very, I support you, but then I don't know. It's very confusing.
So you know where we're seeing that a lot, in New Jersey at least. There's something called the DEI policies, diversity, equity, and
Yes.
inclusion programs,
Mhm.
policies.
Yeah.
And I think we knew this before, but we're seeing it. It's so clear now that sensitivity to what offends Jews, or is considered racism against Jews, is not part of these DEI
Right.
policies and trainings. And that is another area that we need to work on.
Yes, a lot
And
of them don't include Jews in their advocacy. Like they
correct,
don't, the groups don't include Jewish participants at all.
correct. Now the government, the Biden administration, did put out for the first time ever, and that was almost, I think, a year probably soon ago. And a big part of that is actually making sure that anti-Semitism is included in all of these DEI training packages or DEI training courses, for federal employees and the like. But the schools need it.
The
The
schools need
schools
it
need it.
badly. Yeah. That's the problem. The schools are, they need it the most, because right now they're going to be the ones who
Yep.
lead our country in the future. So if they don't get it, doesn't help that, the federal workers have it right now.
Right. And education is key. And I don't know if your listeners are familiar with the IRA definition of anti-Semitism. I suggest you look at, people can look it up.
Yeah.
That's a document that defines anti-Semitism. It's not law abiding or anything like that. It's just very highly recommended to be used as a reference to help identify what anti-Semitism is. Um, and we're trying to get that adopted by states and universities and institutions, to help in this fight.
Yeah. All right. Well, Dan, thank you so much for joining me
Sure.
today. It's been a pleasure talking to you again after all those years.
Yeah. Double
Um,
bonus. I get to be on your show and I also get to see you after so many years.
yes, and we'll do it again in Hebrew.
Yeah.
That'll be
Um,
fun.
we'll set it up.
Yes. All right.
I'm
Well, thank
happy
you
to
all
do
for
that.
listening to the Israel Connection. We'll see you next time, and don't forget to check out the Hebrew version as well.